Welcome to another edition of the Old School Scribe Podcast. Very happy to have the all-time leading scorer in Bengals history, one James Breech. Breacher, thanks very much for coming on with us. Great to have you.
Butch, it's great. It's always great to be with you.
We got a comment on that wall of fame. That looks terrific.
Yeah, my wife put that up a few years ago. I didn't collect a lot of memorabilia, and she started going through and found a bunch of stuff and put it up on the wall, and it's pretty nice. A lot of memories, right? When you come down and see things like that. So
yeah, she made she made up for lost time, Jim. She's got some nice stuff up there.
There is some good stuff up there. The whole thing, playing in the NFL for as long as, actually, to be playing at all was such a blessing, and just so appreciative of the opportunity I had, and that's just a lot of good memories of that time.
I got on the back of my book this day in Bengals history. I really cherish your quote on there about what you said. We make memories. That's what we do as professional athletes, which is part of the blessing, I think.
And actually, for me, what made me think about that was spending time with my dad, with my brother, with my mom, with my kids. And I started realizing that what we're doing is not dissimilar to what we were watching on the field when all those teams played at different times. And, you fall in love with Willie Mays. In my case, Willie Mays was my favorite player in anything over the years. And have an opportunity to share that with my dad and my brother for years was, it's special.
Did you ever meet Willie Mays?
Never met Willie Mays. I tried hanging out, get an autograph, but he was always pretty quick to get to his car. So I never did. I saw him certainly play a number of times, but never got to meet him.
Breacher, what is your favorite item of memorabilia that the wife put up there for you? What's your favorite?
Wow. I have to look.
Go ahead. That's fine. That's a classic Breacher pose, that's a classic Breacher follow through right there. Three head down.
As I look at it, the one that always, there's two things. The team picture, and that one's from 88, I believe. Yeah. And I don't know where our 81 is. It's around, it's somewhere. But then the picture that Jim Borgman did of the tiger in the stadium and saying next.
Yeah,
I've always loved that photo. I mean, that drawing that he did, it just kind of exemplified what went on that season and how we felt and the confidence we had. And that kind of talks to me about what my career was about and the great seasons we had and things like that, and the great players I played with.
That great iconic cartoon when you guys started out, you never got beat at Riverfront in 1988.
That was a good year, 88, and 88 was a good year. It was all fun. When you win, when you're winning, it's a lot of fun.
No, you had a huge field goal in that season. You got, I think that was one of your overtime kicks, gave the Bengals home field advantage for the playoff.
It was one of the few times that I really got to contribute because we were so unbelievably good on offense that year. I really didn't have many attempts, but that one was big in that it gave us that week off, and we were pretty banged up. So we really needed that week. So it worked out really well.
Yeah, I think what it was, you guys were playing Washington, and it was I guess it was the last game of the year. You needed to win it to get the home field. I think it was you and Buffalo going for home field, right? Who you ended up
probably Buffalo was pretty well settled in during that time, and they went on for many years. Obviously, after that, and I think Jamie Morris carried 43 times that game. For
still
Washington.
A record, still an all-time record.
Yeah, and they still didn't win.
Yeah, Syracuse's Jamie Morris. I think also too, Washington missed a field goal, right? That they should have won, right? I mean, it was none of them are easy, but
32 yards, I think. It was Chip Low-Miller.
Yeah, and
the ball was on the right hash. I can tell you, kicking into the river end, it was so windy. The wind was just crazy. It was howling down there. And we were kicking side by side at that end. And from 40 yards, both of us were struggling. and the ball would go up to the left upright and end up outside the right upright. And it's like, this is tough. So when they had the ball on the right hash, I even said to a couple of guys, I said, hey, there's a chance he could miss this.
Right.
I really thought, because they let the clock run down.
Right.
I thought they'd move the ball to the middle or even run it over to the left hash,
Right.
kick it right down the hash and let the wind blow it in. And they kept it on the right. And it's like a putter, that left to right putt. Sometimes you come out of it a hair and the wind grabbed it and knocked it into the post.
Yeah. Now, did you have the same kick in overtime?
I had shorter. It was like 20 or 21 yards. It was on the right hash also.
Yeah.
And Sam actually asked me if I wanted to move it, but I was so mentally into it. And really all I had to do was get it started before the wind. After it got through, it actually went outside the post, but it was probably 10 or 15 yards through when it did that. But the wind down there was it was crazy the way it was blowing.
Now that's supposedly the door. They always said Paul Brown opened the door during the Freezer Bowl, right? That was
Ralph Panerski in the Freezer Bowl believes that.
Right. Yeah.
And actually, it got to the point where wherever they had the door, they had to leave it there,
right?
Because there was a lot of conjecture that was happening.
That's fine. So they had to leave. They had to shut it.
Shut it or wherever. If it was up 4 feet.
Yeah.
At some point, then you had to leave it there, or if it was wide open, or if it was closed. But for me to kick, they couldn't just close it and then open it up for the other guy kicking, or the other team driving down, and all of a sudden it gets really windy. But that day, it didn't matter. I mean, the wind actually wasn't blowing through there as much as it was kind of coming down the field and going across the field.
Yeah, yeah. One of your, that's one of your great achievements is 9 for 9 in overtime. That was one of them. The first one I saw, that was a while game back in your native California. Boomer threw for 490 and the 34-31 final. And that was one of Sam's great coaching jobs. You guys are really banged up. You didn't have Eddie Brown. The receivers were limping. He made Rodney Holman a receiver.
Right.
I think three guys had 100 yards. Tim McGee,
Rodney, and maybe James Brooks, maybe?
I think so. I think that's right. And then, but they needed you to finish it off. And that was a wild week that began in Seattle.
Yeah.
The women in the locker room.
Seattle.
Yeah.
And if I recall, so Mike Lansford, who I knew Mike real well, we used to actually kick in the offseason. He kicked the field goal to tie the game, to put it into overtime. And then I got the opportunity in overtime. Yeah. And I remember Eric Thomas, he's from Sacramento as I am, our hometowns. He runs up, he goes, "Wager putting Sacto on the map." But the other part of that was, the Seattle thing, all the stuff that happened there, and not letting the lady reporter in the locker room. Yeah. After the game, if you remember, Sam comes up, and I happen to be nearby where he was talking to the press, and he's got a towel. If you remember, he had a towel around his waist, right. And he comes up there and he starts to say, and he whips the towel off. Right. And he's got shorts on. He goes, "How embarrassing would this be if I didn't have shorts on? That's why women shouldn't be in the locker room."
If I'm not mistaken, the towel had a fig leaf on it.
It may have. I don't know. I mean, I can see Sam doing that. Yeah. And I can see Sam staying up all night drawing it.
Yeah. Great coach. I mean, just really and it had to be he was tough to cover, but I bet it was fun to play for.
He could be all over the place.
Yeah.
The whole wicky wacky thing. Sometimes there was something to that where he kind of get off on tangents. Yeah. And it's like, let's focus a little bit more on football. But Sam was brilliant. Yeah. And one of the best people you'll ever meet in your lifetime.
Yeah. I mean, great for the community. And that's something that you were, Jim, you've always had a big niche in the community. I mean, you've been involved in so many things, and you just got a passion for it.
I do. Years ago, you run across somebody that starts a charity, whether it be cancer or MS or diabetes, whatever the case might be. Somewhere along the way, there was probably a tragedy or something in somebody's family. Something happened that they started this to support that person or in memory of that person. And if you look around, almost every charity started that way, every nonprofit. And how can I go out and decide what's more important for me when I don't have somebody going through that? So I've got, I'll support as many as I can, as often as I can. If they think it's our being there is going to help them raise money, I'm glad to do it as often as I can.
Right. Now you're the head of you're very involved with the alumni with the NFL alumni group here in town.
Right. Yeah, I'm the president of the local alumni, and it's pretty quiet right now with COVID.
Yeah.
So, but we put on a golf event every year, and it's fun. We have a lot of great guys here. They're still here locally, and good support from the guys, from the community, and we try and go out and support the community plus our own guys too.
You're a California guy all the way, but you stayed here. Why'd you stay here, Jim? Why'd you settle in Cincinnati?
Fell in love with it. Got here, came out the first year in '81 without my family. Didn't think I was going to make the team. I made the team. And obviously, we go to the Super Bowl. I lead the AFC in scoring that year. And so son was going to school, and I wasn't going to go through another 6 months of being away from my family. So in June of '82, we packed up a U-Haul and literally drove across country. And, when I got done playing my last training camp, it was '93. I was 37. Kids had all grown up here. Fell in love with the community. The people just been unbelievably kind and welcoming. And plus the fact that we had a couple Super Bowls. I think people remember those. A lot of memories that remember quite a bit.
You were on both of them, kicked in both of them. You're like the Bruce Hurst. Remember what happened in 1986? The Red Sox. It flashed on the screen very briefly in Shea Stadium. Congratulations, World Series MVP Bruce Hurst. Well, Mookie and Buckner took care of that. But you're 92 yards and a Montana miracle away from being the MVP of. I always call you the MVP of Super Bowl 22 3/4.
Yeah. 22 and 14/15.
Right.
And the way I look at it, is it was great. It's great to be able to be in that situation and to see how you respond to it. I think that's part of what sports is about. I'm going to put it out there and see how well I can do. But the other part of it is it took two of the greatest players to ever play the game in Montana and Rice to take them down the field and score. The unfortunate part is that, we never got that win. And it's still, I'm telling you what, it's still there. It's not fun.
Yeah. How is it still there, Jim? Is there?
Because you're competitors, we would never have a chance to compete again to change that.
Yeah.
Losing is no fun.
You think about it every time you watch a Super Bowl. Do you think of it?
Well, every Super Bowl year that Super Bowl 23 comes up and is played.
Yeah.
So you can't help but think about it. You're getting texts, people reminding you, and something happens in the Super Bowl. It's like, man, we know how that feels when it happens on the negative side. So
yeah,
I remember doing a TV show after one of Buffalo's losses, and Mark Pryor, who played on all four Buffalo losses, and then both of us were sitting there, and the host says, "Well, what is that team thinking right now? They're in there rejoicing that they just won the Super Bowl," and we look at each other and like, we don't have any clue. We've never been there.
Yeah. It's that had to be the one with the one, I guess, with 3:20 left. I guess there was 3:20 left. It was a 40-yarder, right? And
yes,
is that the biggest field goal of your career?
Yeah. Anytime you have a game of that magnitude, it's got to be to put us up by that 3 with 3:20 to go. Absolutely. The funny thing is, the week before we left for the game, Tiger Johnson and a few guys were standing around just talking, And if you remember in 82 was a strike year and they had the Super Bowl tournament, right?
Yep.
He was coaching at Detroit. And they're driving down late in the game. Eddie Murray's got a 43-yard field goal to win the game, and he misses. And he starts talking about Eddie Murray. And Eddie was a phenomenal kicker, a great career. And he starts getting excited and he starts spitting and he's like, he's calling Eddie Murray every name. And he goes, that guy cost me $25,000. Well, 1982, that's big dollars, right?
Yeah.
He was so angry.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, and I don't know why this popped in my head. I'm standing there on the sideline. Sam says, we got to make sure we get the field goal out of this. Excuse me. And I thought, man, if I miss this, Tiger's going to be pissed. So fortunately I didn't. And so he didn't have to be, I didn't become a story for him.
Yeah. Both, I think Mike Brown will, he'll tell you the 1981 team, probably the best team of all time. Would you agree with that? Would you agree? I mean, I think most people would say that. Would you agree with that?
I think both of those teams were similar, with, you got a MVP quarterback, you've got phenomenal skill position players, you got great offensive lines, solid defense all the way around with great defensive backs, safety's real strong. So I think there was a lot of similarities. But the 81 team, that was a pretty special team. There's no way we should have lost that Super Bowl. Montana throws for 151 yards and a touchdown and wins the MVP.
Yeah.
We dominated the second half. If there's somehow we could have punched it in on our first drive of the second half when Pete or maybe we had already scored and come back down, because they couldn't move the ball in the second half. They kicked a couple field goals.
Yeah.
That's all they could do. And we moved up and down the field. Yeah. And unfortunately, that one goal line stand stood out. And matter of fact, years ago, I was back in Sacramento. A friend of mine is a high school coach there, and he had a bunch of guys come back. And Dan Bunce lives in the area. He grew up just outside Sacramento. And so I came the farthest, so they gave me a helmet. And on the helmet, because Dan didn't know who was going, just Dan Bunce says his name and then the play. The play was when he tackled Charles Alexander on the half-yard line on the pass. I mean, it's just crazy stuff. Little things, right, are the difference.
Yeah.
And, if Charlie gets his route into the end zone, catches the ball already in the end zone as a touchdown, it's the little things that happen. But Dan stepped up and made an unbelievable play.
Yeah. It has such an impact though, I mean, Kenny Anderson's probably in the Hall of Fame if you win that game, unfortunately.
I would say and
it shouldn't be like that. He should be in anyway, but the league, the Hall of Fame is.
Yes, he should be. Yeah. And the fact that Dan Fouts is in, he threw for a lot more yards, but the Coryell system was set up to throw for a lot of yards. He never played in the Super Bowl. Matter of fact, he got to one AFC championship or two, the Freezer Bowl, which I hear him on the air, and I've probably heard him 5 times say, well, if we got those guys at home, we'd have beaten them. Well, Dan, you had us late November at your place, and we beat you 40-17. Yeah. You had your opportunity. You blew it. Don't go complaining about it.
Louis Breeden was sitting right where you were last week on the podcast. He said the exact same thing. He said the exact same thing. Yep.
102 yards. What a sweet play that was. Yeah. Louis, great player. I don't think he gets the just he deserves for his ability. He had 34 interceptions, I think.
33. He had 33.
33. Yep. And I'll bet he dropped 20. He'd be all over people. We'd be on the side because we hung out all the time on the sideline. He goes, man, but these guys are so intent on covering the guy that sometimes they don't they don't always catch the ball, and it's unfortunate because he was an unbelievably great player.
It's a very underrated thing, That's why Kenny Riley should also.
I know
he should be in. I mean, it's because of and everybody says, well, Parrish was on the other side and they threw it to him. Well, you know what? He caught it. Nobody, only 4 people caught more,
Well, yeah, well, not, and to that point, I think, he never makes a Pro Bowl because he wasn't flashy.
Right.
All he did was cover guys, but I think he made two all-pro teams,
Right.
but he never made a Pro Bowl. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
I'm telling you what, you threw the ball high around him,
Yeah.
and he'd come and cut guys' legs out. They didn't want anything. They go back to the huddle and say, whatever their quarterback, man, stop throwing the ball high. I'm going to get killed out here.
Yeah.
He was a great player. We had really solid defenses.
Yeah.
And Rattler was right up there because Bengals really had good defenses for many years.
Well, I think that's probably what puts the 81. That's probably what puts the 81 team over the top. Probably is that, and the fact that you led the AFC in scoring, it shows you how potent the offense was.
Well, yes, I had 40 something extra points.
Yep.
I had 59 attempts in 88 though.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
And that 88 team
Yeah.
scored touchdowns like crazy.
It was unbelievable.
I got 49 attempts in 81 and 59 attempts in 88.
Yeah. Did you think 30 years? Well, it's not, your last year was 92. So you've had the record almost 30 years, the scoring record.
Since 86.
Since 80. Okay, there you go.
1986 against the Minnesota Vikings. They had a 40-yarder.
Whose record did you break? Who was?
Horst Millman.
Oh, it was normal. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've
I've
had
had since 86.
and
Yeah, I am kind of surprised to tell you the truth.
yeah.
I thought Shane would. Yeah, it's quick story. I was trying out in Green Bay. I'd gotten released by the Raiders, and Jan Stenerud was trying out the same day, and he was 13 years in the league at that time, and I was 1. But I'd had experience because I had played 1 year, so they brought me in. And I said, "Oh, it's got to be great. The longer you play, the easier it becomes." He goes, "No, it doesn't become easier. The expectation level comes higher, and you've got to do it year in and year out, and you start remembering the kicks that you miss." And so it was things. And he went on to kick really well another 5 or 6 years after that. So yes, you think that you would get better at it, but because there's so many opportunities, then the ones you might miss. Sometimes for some guys, they were still in the back of their minds.
I think Horst was in Kansas City and he got traded to Cincinnati because Jan was obviously there. And
right.
I mean,
I think Tony Frisch was there also.
Okay, how about that? Yeah.
Yeah, they brought in a bunch of guys from Europe to test them out. And Stenerud is my hero. I mean, I wore number 3 because of Stenerud. And
really,
there's an idol card that came out, and Jan Stenerud was the one I had put on my card. And he went to Montana State as a ski jumper and could kick a football.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
Where was he from? He was from
Norway, I believe.
Yeah, right. Did you ever meet him?
I've met him a number of times, yes. Phenomenal guy.
You tried out with him. Yeah, you tried out with him.
Yeah. Well, actually, we weren't together for more than a few minutes. He kicked and then I kicked. So in passing, we just spoke for a little while.
Yeah.
Years ago, after I got cut in 93, I'd played some tournaments on the Celebrity Golf Tour, and Jan's a really good player. So I called them up. They were in Chicago, and I said, "Do you have any guys that backed out? I mean, I just got released. I mean, if you need a player." They said, "Yeah, we do." So jump in the car, drive to Chicago. In the first round, they pair me with Jan Stenerud and Tony Franklin and me. So we had 3 kickers, and it was a blast. But Jan's son was caddying for him, and his son wasn't a golfer. And I can tell you, they went back and forth. His son's trying to tell him, Jan, he won one of those tournaments a few years later, so he can really. I mean, he's probably like a 1 or 2 handicap. His son telling him what he should hit. He's telling his son to shut up, and they're going back. I mean, they're like father and son, right?
Yeah.
We get done with the round, and Jan walks out. He goes, "I am so embarrassed. I am so sorry. That was so embarrassing. The way that went on, the way my son and Tony and I looked at each other and said, can I tell you, that was the most fun we've ever had in a round of golf." It was a blast.
He's a nice man. I sat next to him at a Hall of Fame thing 2 years ago. I guess the last one before COVID, I guess. And he was just a nice man, he and his wife.
He's awesome. He is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's
But
nice
the
when you
tournament I played in Chicago was the same weekend. Michael Jordan's father, he was hosting the tournament when his father was killed, if you remember.
Oh my, really?
So he had to leave, and Charles Barkley jumped in and became the host.
Wow.
And I remembered, I saw Charles last year or 2 years ago at an event, and I mentioned that to him. He goes, man, that was such a tough time.
Yeah.
But I got a chance to sit with Smokey Robinson at a table.
Oh man.
And because things were kind of disjointed, nobody really knew what was going on. He jumps up and gives an impromptu concert right there.
Oh my.
I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever.
Wow.
I know, it was awesome.
That's right there with your 9 for 9, sitting with Smokey Robinson. That's big.
It was big.
I know you're a big fan of Darren Simmons, the special teams coordinator for the Bengals. He's the longest tenured guy in the league. And I know if it hadn't been for COVID, you would have been down there. You would have been down there a couple times. Probably you'd like to do that. Would stop in and say hello, even though you never played for Darren. I know you kind of really respect.
Great respect for him. His attention to detail is just off the charts. Imagine you literally are coaching 45 to 50 guys. Actually, it's more than that, because you have guys that aren't even dressing that you're coaching because you don't really know what's going to happen on Sunday. So you're coaching 53 or 55 guys, and the way he does it, and he's on top of everything. It's amazing the way he does it. The guys love playing for him. And just year in and year out, he gets so much accomplished. And even when there's down times, he still figures out how to get it done. I still, to this day, don't understand why he's not a head coach.
Yeah, we talked about
that's
that.
the only. Pardon?
Yeah, we talked about that last week. How
right?
And I want to get your, because you were interested about how he deals with all the guys. But I thought with John Harbaugh's success that it would have opened it up, but it hasn't. For special teams,
you would think, and this Joe Judge seems to be doing a really nice job in New York with the Giants. Frank Gans, who was with the Bengals when I got there in the last 4 games of '80, he coached at Kansas City for a while and was a total failure. And I think that really hurt. Yeah. Because it didn't work out, and I unfortunately, but I think that put it behind a little bit. Right. But so you're a special teams guy. You know what you like on offense. You know what you like on defense. Your coordinators are people you can handpick to run the type of offense you want and run the type of defense. Or maybe you bring somebody in you have great respect for and let them tell you how they want to run it. And you have a choice.
Pretty good stretch of teams here. They won the title last year. Going off of Football Outsiders, they were ranked number 1. Special teams. They went into last week's game in Miami. They were number 6. Playing the number 1, they certainly held their own. I thought probably the way they covered the punts probably sparked everything. But I was interested to get your feedback on how Mike Thomas's 2 hits. The first one I think Darren thought was clean. The second one was, I guess he was a little early, but I didn't think he was dirty. He was just trying to make it.
He was a lot early. Yeah. The first one was perfect timing. Yeah. And it seemed like it was shoulder to shoulder. I don't know why. And the guy, actually, the ball kind of went through his arm. So it's not like it was bang, bang. It was bang, bang. And they're moving really fast. Yeah. The second one, he just mistimed it. But Grant never fair catches.
No, right.
So what do? If you try and break down, that's exactly what he wants you to do. Because then he beats, he jukes you. Right. So the punt returner, the first thing he want to do, beat the first guy, and then you can get up the field if you get by that first guy. Yeah. So I felt bad for him because I know he wasn't malicious. No, it was just he got down there too cleanly. Yeah. I remember when I was in college, we were playing Colorado, and we had a freshman quarterback who was a phenomenal athlete. So they put him out as the cover guy. He goes down, and you thought Mike Thomas hit the guy early? Yeah. our guy, he hit him. The ball was probably another 25 feet in the air. Just drilled the guy, 15-yard penalty.
Yeah.
So we go in, we punt again. The exact same thing. And the ball's not even, it's barely coming down.
Yeah.
And he drills the guy, and then, they took him off after that. But, you got to be smart. And, Mike Thomas has done it a lot. He obviously can beat coverage because he got down there in a hurry.
Kevin Huber, your guy, he passed a long time ago. He passed your guy Lee Johnson as the all-time punter. And Lee had a great career here, and Kevin has, topped it. He's been a Cincinnati kid. He's been terrific, and he still is. I mean, he's had a good day Sunday.
He had a great day on Sunday. He's had a great season. Last couple of seasons, he's been so consistent, and they do such a great job of covering too. It's amazing when I was playing, 35-yard net was what you were shooting for.
Yeah.
Now, and then I remember when somebody actually had a 40-yard net, it's like, wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
I think there's only 3 guys in the whole league that don't have at least a 40-yard net right now.
Yeah.
These guys, the punters, are just amazing. I mean, they're averaging, Kevin's 47.2, I think.
Right.
He's like 8th in the league at 47.2.
Right.
In 1981, Pat McInally averaged 45 yards. The next closest guy was like 42.2.
Wow. Jeez.
And you don't see that disparity. I mean, that was an outlier, right?
Yeah.
That year, so much better than everybody else. So
What was it like?
The guys are amazing.
What was it like playing with McInally? Interesting.
That was great.
Harvard guy, right? He was a.
But he didn't hang out with me.
Yeah.
He was always with the receivers. He was a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And then the year that they tried to make him just a punter, I think that was 80. That might have been 86. Excuse me. And he came over. He said, "I can't do it. I can't. This is driving me crazy." It could be a long day.
Yeah.
You get your work in, but there's a lot of standing around, walking around, watching drills, maybe jumping in and being a part of drills. But he wanted to be out there catching passes, running routes.
Yeah.
And he retired.
Yeah.
He said, "I can't do it. Mentally, I can't do it like this."
It's amazing. Randy Bullock and kicking is kicking's tough to be consistent. It was just last month the guy was the all-time accuracy leader on the Bengals list, and he was leading the NFL in scoring. Now he's in a slump. He's missed 3 of his last 5 plus an extra point. It's like it can go like that.
It can. You just got to get in, come out of a couple kicks. When you hit them right, usually you kind of stand up out of it a little bit, and you go to practice and you work through it. I felt bad. I don't know what the wind was like in Miami. If that 15-yard penalty doesn't happen, that 38, it would have been 38. He would have made it easily inside the post.
Yeah.
Just unfortunate that extra 15 yards, it kept moving left. You just have to keep with it, because it's, you want to be as consistent as possible. But if you have a down game, you can't dwell on that.
Right.
Greg Zuerlein last night goes 1 for 4. Next week, he might have the game-winning attempt. Hopefully not, because they're playing the Bengals.
Right.
Hopefully he goes 1 for 4 again. But hopefully it's Randy kicking the game winner next week.
Right.
But you have to stick with it. But you also need support. I'm sure Darren is very supportive. I know he's tough on guys. But this is the time when he really needs the support, because I think Randy's a really, really good kicker.
Yeah, you were saying this year, if you looked at most of his kicks this year, they've been right down the middle.
Oh, they're right down the middle.
Yeah.
He doesn't flirt with the post too much, and then all of a sudden here recently, that's happened. So whatever mechanical things going on, they'll get it worked out. Darren is really, really exceptional working with kickers, unlike many special teams kickers. Special teams coaches, that's changed quite a bit, where guys actually have a pretty good handle on working with guys. He'll be fine. I just think the problem with a kicker is everybody sees you.
Yeah.
A quarterback gets to throw the ball 35 or 40 times. Wide receiver might get 7 or 8 or 9 attempts. Everybody gets a lot of opportunities. A kicker does it.
Yeah.
And if you miss 1 or 2, they want to throw you out the door. But that doesn't mean the guy you're going to find is going to be better. So to me, it's like Minnesota. They gave up on Carlson who's now kicking really well for the Raiders. I think if Mike Zimmer had hung in there a little longer with him, I think he would have really been pleased, because Carlson's having a great year, and he's really come around, been the kicker that everybody thought he would be coming out of college.
Yeah, and I know you're probably thinking, you're hoping Randy does get a shot to win it, right?
I do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
The guys, everybody works their tails off, and it's frustrating to lose consistently when you're working hard and you're putting everything on the line, because you play just as hard whether you win or lose.
Yeah. Did you ever have a slump like that and then came back and you did hit the game winner? You ever remember a stretch that
Oh, Butch, in my era, there were all kinds of stretches.
Well, they were always
I had a
trying to
whole
run you.
season like that.
I mean, Breech, you can probably tell Randy. I mean, they wanted to run you out every year, right?
No, in the middle, toward the end, they were bringing in, but there were a number of years there. They brought in a leg, but they didn't they weren't trying to replace me. What's that?
I mean, not the team wanted you out, but fans always want to change out
Yeah.
the kicker,
Yeah, I guess so. It's I didn't have the biggest leg. It's kind of interesting. Late in my career, because that's the thing today, these guys know what the heck they're doing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, from the time little kids, I had no clue. Most of us had no clue what we were doing. We were trying to figure it out as we went. I didn't play soccer.
Yeah.
Trying to learn how to kick off the ground, because I used a block in college. It was a struggle. And late in my career, if you watch guys kick today, they're really upright and tall when they kick. I always thought you had to go down to the ball.
Yeah.
And all that does, you really lose power. And I was kicking the ball longer than I was at 25 when I was 36 and 37.
Yeah.
So, if I'd have come around 10 years later, it's funny because in 79, I was at 67% that year. And that was like 10th or 11th in the NFL in field goal percentage. My last 6 years with the Bengals, I was almost 78%. That was like 10th in the league. So that had jumped 10 points. It's gone up another 5 or 6 or 7. And then it's kind of settled in around 82, 83, I think, these days. So it's the guys today the expectation level is so high that, Randy missing a couple of kicks, especially at 53 and 58, 2 of them, and one with 58 hit the upright, I believe.
Right.
Yeah. The expectation level is so high that guys they can't miss. They're just they aren't expected to miss at all. And then you throw in the fact that the extra point is at 33 yards. Harrison Butker has missed like 4 or 5 extra points. He's missed like 2 field goals and like 5 extra points. That gets in your head after a while. The guys start moving the ball around, left hash, right? Just trying to figure out how to get an extra point through, because you're supposed to make them all, right? 33 yards. The average is 94%, and that's what they do. 94% of extra points are made, but when you miss extra point, guys are like, "You missed an extra point? That's terrible."
I think you held
It's all a head game. It's all a head game with kicking.
You held the NFL record for consecutive extra points.
No,
For consecutive.
No, that was like Tommy Davis kicking when they kicked from the 10-yard line. The goalpost was in front, like a 10-yard kick.
Yeah,
I never had anything.
But you broke Fred Cox's record
For consecutive games scored in.
Consecutive games scored in. That's right.
Yeah. He was at 151, and I ended up with 186, and then Morton Anderson blew by me. He ended up with 300 something.
Yeah, right.
I was in the Guinness Book of World Record for 2 years.
I mean, that's a great record.
It was great, and every game I kicked in college, I scored in.
Yeah.
And that's really how that came up. Somebody asked me about that, and I said, "Well, yeah, I think I've scored in every game I've ever played in." And it was Tim Sullivan, I think, started to do some research, and he said, "You're closing in on Fred Cox, the all-time leading consecutive game scorer." I'm like, "Whoa, didn't know that."
Yeah. I remember when you broke it. I was driving down Beachmont Ave past Jiffy Lube, and there was a sign that said, "Way to go, Breech." 1990.
But
But
that's funny.
Hey, listen. Well, we've gone overtime with you, Jim Breech. So you've been.
And we haven't even talked baseball at all.
I know. Well, Willie Mays is the greatest player you ever saw, right? In person, right? Willie Mays.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, to me, it's the greatest play I ever saw, period.
Right. No. Right. Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you that, and then you brought it up with Mays, and I was trying to think of the greatest player I ever saw, and I guess I'd have to say. I guess I'd have to say Yaz. I guess.
He was pretty good. I loved Yaz.
Yeah, he wasn't
What a
Willie
great-
Mays, but he was still a great player. You know.
Yeah, I got a chance. Well, we had the A's also.
Yeah.
Northern, and I rooted for both teams because they were in different leagues, just like I rooted for the Raiders and the 49ers. And I got a chance to see Reggie Jackson and then Ricky Henderson when he came up. So I got a chance to see some great players. I remember Minnesota Twins coming into town, and Harmon Killebrew goes 3-run home run in the first inning, grand slam in the second inning, gets thrown out the plate in the third inning, and he gets hurt. He's out of the game. 2 at-bats, 2 home runs, 7 RBI.
Oh, my. But you played, Breach. Did you play in college or no?
I did. I played 1 year of college.
Yeah.
And then it just was too much to try and do both because they had me going to spring practice and then running back. I'm trying to get down to games.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, the next year, they asked me to come back and play. And I said, look, it's too much to try and do both. But, I had a chance to sign with the Pirates coming out of high school. And I just signed my letter of intent. And I was talking to Ronnie King with the Pirates. He says, look, I'm not going to tell you what we're offering because I saw you signed full ride to go to Cali. He goes, go to college.
Yeah.
Baseball's still there. If it's supposed to work for you, it'll, go play baseball. So I did. And obviously football worked out and no regrets. I loved the time I had in football. It was a dream come true, really.
Did you ever think about that? If you had signed with Pittsburgh, did you ever think about
that?
Yeah,
I wasn't drafted.
Right.
I was really disappointed I didn't get drafted.
Yeah.
So I think there was still like B and C and D ball then.
Yeah.
So I'm an undrafted guy. I'm going to go in and start a D ball, then maybe get to C and B. By the time I get to AAA, I'm going to be like 27 years old.
Right.
And I'd probably be a lifetime minor league player who would never have played in the majors. And, I faced a number of guys that pitched in the majors, and I got hits off all of them. So I knew I could have done okay hitting, but the opportunity, there's a lot of guys like me out there, but Freddie Patek was playing for Pittsburgh, and that's the only reason I think they looked at me was because he was doing well.
What were you? Were you a shortstop?
Middle infielder. Probably would have played second base.
Right.
But in college, I played center field that year.
No kidding. Who's the best pitcher you faced in college? Who's
On college? Nobody in college. It was in Sacramento. Butch Edge was a first-round pick with Milwaukee. He threw harder than anybody I've ever faced. And then Randy Lurch, who had a 12-year career with the Phillies.
Yeah.
Faced him. And then Pete Redfern.
Yeah.
Faced him in the California World Series state championship for Legion ball. So faced a lot of guys. He played 10 or 12 years for the Twins.
Yeah, right.
So faced some really good guys. And there were guys that we faced that threw as hard or harder that never made it to the majors.
Yeah.
Sacramento's great, kind of like Cincinnati in terms of baseball.
Right. One last question. Mays, the best baseball player you ever saw. How about the best teammate football? Greatest player?
Oh, Anthony Munoz.
Yeah.
Is one of my closest friends.
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal.
Yep.
But we're fortunate. I mean, if you even look back now, we have a lot of guys still here locally, and we're really close.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of guys in the area that get along really well. So I had some great teammates. Lee was great. He was a blast to be around.
How's he doing? How is Lee Johnson doing?
He's doing great. I mean, great. He's nuts. He's nuts. He's one of the craziest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
And he has not changed.
Yeah.
He is not, but very fortunate. Max Montoya to, gosh, I mean, Barney Bussey, and there's so many guys that were such good guys. Mike Martin. We had our own Tim Crumry. So if you got 1 minute, I'll tell you a really quick Crumry story. Yep. So Crummy lived in Anderson, right? And my daughters used to babysit for his kids. So the trade-off was I would drive his Porsche to the airport so he could drink coming back on the plane.
Yeah.
And then I would drive him back, right?
Right.
And then the deal was I'd drop him off at home. I get to keep the car as I drive home. And if I want to drive around in the morning at all, I pick him up and take him back the next day. And then, so that was a good deal. You know, it worked out for me. I got to drive his Porsche around a little bit. But we're playing Green Bay in a preseason game. And I kick off, and we got all these guys that are unbelievably talented that have never played special teams. They were the best players on their college team, right? Yeah. So the two guys next to me, the ones, they run down, and they're supposed to all go to the same side when you're running down so you don't lose lanes. Well, the guy on my right goes down, he runs around his guy to the right. The L1 he goes around, runs around his guy to the left. There's like 15 yards in the middle of the field. Nobody's there. And two guys and the ball carrier coming my way. And I'm like, oh, crud. So one of them peels off. So I've got the ball carrier and this offensive lineman. And I'm like, all right, so I've got to try and get them to go toward the pursuit, right? But they're getting close. So I went after the first guy. I went after the lineman. I hit him, took him out. I got the ball carrier. They both went, and the pursuit. Everybody came there at the same time, and I'm laying on the ground, and I can't get up. I've got a stinger. And if you ever try to get up with one arm, it's not easy. And I'm rolling around trying to push up on my right arm, and I finally get off the ground. Paul Sparling runs. He goes, oh, what's going on? He goes, oh, you got a stinger. You're fine. It'll be fine in a little while. I'm like, crud. I mean, I hope that little while hurries up because it's hurting like son of a gun. So I'm standing over there, and Crummy walks over. My buddy, you know, even our lockers were close together.
Yeah.
Breacher, how you doing? I said, Tim, man, I'll tell you what. My arm is killing me. I can barely lift it up. And so I'm thinking he's going to wrap his arm around. Go, hey, Anna, Breacher. Yeah, Crummy? He goes, welcome to the NFL. Crummy, he was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
The best. Well, hey, Breacher, like I said, I could talk to you forever here, but you're 10 for 10 in overtime now after this part.
Thanks, Butch. It's great talking to you.
Great. Thank you for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. Stay safe, okay?
Same to you. Thank you.
Thank you.